Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Duck Zone. We are in week 11 of the NFL season. It is crazy how fast the season is going by. Week 12 of the NCAA season, we'll be getting to that soon. We're going to pass it right over to James to get this thing started. We got a lot to recap from week 10. James, roll right on in.
Yeah, so I'll start off with that Thursday night game. We had probably one of the better Thursday night games I can remember in a long time. That was a
Yeah.
thriller, in my opinion. Lamar's the man. He was getting booed in the first half and then just came out and lit it up in the second half. Um, Despite, I say all that, and that's despite Burrow and Chase absolutely having an insane game.
Yeah.
It's too bad the Bengals don't have a defense, or else I don't know. I still really like that team, but they just don't have a defense.
Yeah.
We then get to move on to the game at Allianz Stadium in Germany, and the reason I bring this game up because we talked about it being a clunker, Patriots and the Giants, but I wanted to put a note down that I think Bryce Young and the Panthers youth movement might actually be something. At least it's hope for those Panther fans to look at just a ton of young guys. So I thought that was kind of cool. Bryce Young actually has a pulse.
Yep.
Sort of a question. You don't really have to answer it because I know what your answer will be, but I swear, why does everything go the Chiefs' way? It just, every ball bounces their way, every kick either goes their way or they seem to get a blocked kick or an interception or a late touchdown. It's everything. I don't know. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes made a deal with the devil. I don't know if Andy Reid made a deal with the devil, but everything goes their damn way.
Yeah. That one was shocking.
It's unbelievable. Just every week, it comes down to 3 to 6 points. I think I think I saw that their point differential was like 59, or it was under 60, and we're in week 11.
I think it's the lowest or second lowest for a 10-0 team ever, or 9-0 team, whatever they're at right now. It's the lowest ever.
Yeah, people are calling them the greatest undefeated team ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Russell Wilson still has something left in the tank, which is funny to think about because everyone thought he was dead in Denver.
Yep.
But the Steelers they're looking good. Big touchdown by Mike Williams. That was kind of cool. Just got traded over there. Someone who pops up every single freaking year. The guy, he's not a bad receiver, but he's not great. But every year, I swear, MVS just seems to pop off randomly. And he did that for the Saints. And it's crazy. Just every year he has that one game.
Yep.
CMC is back. Not the CMC game I would say we're used to, but for coming off of a Achilles injury, going over to Germany, coming back, never knowing if he even was going to play this year. Then all of a sudden, oh wait, he is going to play. Then he gets kind of, I don't want to say fast-tracked back, but, 2 weeks ago, it's like, boom, all right, he's going to play. We're ramping him up. Great. He had a solid game. Didn't rush the ball all that well. Had like 50 or 60 yards, but caught like 6 or 7 passes, and I think he's going to be unleashed fully this week.
Yep.
Here's a question that I'll answer myself first, and then I'll pass to you. So I put down: is Caleb Williams overrated, or do the Bears, their O-line, and their coaching staff just suck? And I know we've talked a lot about this, and Caleb Williams is obviously the punchline of a lot of jokes right now, not only in Chicago, but in the NFL. And I feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, he's hyped up as this unbelievable prospect, which he is. And he showed it, I personally think, between weeks 4 and 6. But he's playing with 4 new offensive linemen and a coaching staff that is just absolutely stupid. As we saw, they fired their offensive coordinator. So I think it's unfair to kind of judge Caleb Williams, and it's also easy to judge because we see what Drake May and Jaden Daniels are doing, which what Jaden Daniels is doing is an anomaly. We don't typically see that in rookie quarterbacks. So, Sean, do you agree with me? I mean, is Caleb Williams overrated, or is it way more on the management and coaching staff in Chicago?
You can actually even throw Bo Nix into that conversation at this point as well.
And Bo Nix, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing that's crazy about Chicago is at this point, this is a organizational problem, a coaching staff problem. They just don't know how to run a team. It feels like so. It's nothing really on Caleb Williams, in my opinion. I know their O line isn't the greatest. It's kind of a constructed Frankenstein this year. It feels like, but they've got a lot of talent, and their defense is not bad. Um, the fact of the matter, you can't have a team have this much talent, and I mean, 2 weeks in a row they struggle even to cross the 50-yard line. That's really bad.
I know a lot of Bears fans are complaining because, you know, the easy thing to say is, oh, but he's got Roma Dunze and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift. And it's like, great, you have all the parts,
Yeah.
but so many people don't realize that football is won in the trenches. If you don't have a good D-line and if you don't have a good O-line, you're not going to go anywhere. And unfortunately, Caleb is just running for his life at times. He does make some boneheaded plays
Yeah.
from time to time, and I know there is that stat where he holds the ball longer than any quarterback, but I don't, to say it's all him, I think is a little unfair. But
Yeah, I mean, the other thing
maybe he will just be an average quarterback. I don't know.
the other thing too is the offensive coordinator who's now gone, head coach, have not done a good job of, Keenan Allen. I'll just give an example of Keenan Allen when he was a Charger. A lot of his routes were literally just right off the line, and Justin Herbert would hit him, 2 seconds after. These were not like crazy fancy routes. They're running a lot of fancy stuff in Chicago, and just they really need to just simplify it. You have a lot of guys that are going to win off the ball with these athletic positions. DJ Moore's good off the ball. Keenan Allen's good off the ball. Adonze is still pretty young. We don't know. But, like, you got guys that are going to win against the corners. And, like, they're trying to run all these fancy, routes that are taking, multiple seconds to form. And their line can't do it. Simplify the offense so your quarterback can succeed. You watch the things that they're doing, and DJ Moore's running like 20-yard ends and things. It's just like these things aren't even going to run well if you had a good O line. Like these are tricky things to do if your offense was real good. They got to simplify it, and maybe they will this upcoming week. But so far, it's been way too complex of an offense, and play to your guys' strengths. They're not doing that.
No. And you have Cole Kmet, who's a massive individual. In my opinion, I think a really good tight end if he's used correctly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't need to go more into it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens now with the new OC in Chicago.
Yeah.
My Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray seem to really be figuring it out. I know the stats for Kyler aren't jumping off the page. The run game, I think, has been absolutely incredible. They have, I don't want to say a three-headed monster. It's pretty much James Conner. But when Trey Benson comes in to spell him, he rips off some pretty nice runs. DeMercado's actually been pretty solid.
Yep.
And it's honestly allowing Kyler Murray to kind of pick and choose when he wants to, throw the ball. And it's keeping defenses at bay. And then he's also just dropping in dimes to some of those, to Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. So it's pretty crazy that the Cardinals have come this far this quickly, and they're going back to the basics. Like ramp up your defense and have a solid run game, and it's kind of funny because this isn't the NFL we're used to, where it's drop back 400 times a game and just chuck the shit out of the ball. So, all the Call of Duty jokes that Kyler gets. Maybe pull those back a bit because he's looking pretty. I mean, he's always been a really, really, really good athlete, but
He's looking good.
He's looking good. Last but not least, I didn't watch this game because I was kind of pissed off in fantasy that Nico Collins wasn't going to play when I heard that he got taken off IR and whatnot. Anyways, one thing I will say from all the memes and everything I saw, it was quite the interception fest in Sunday Night Football. Goff threw 5 picks and Stroud threw 2, so there was 7 total interceptions in the game, which is pretty crazy. It actually turned out to be. I watched the highlights. It was a hell of a game,
Yeah.
and the Lions really clawed their way back into it. And yeah, I saw some stat. It was like when Goff throws 3 plus or 4 plus, maybe not 4. That seems like a lot. 3 plus interceptions, he's 6-0. So that's weird.
This is weird. I mean, Detroit's basically the Kansas City version of the NFC, but they're just doing it different ways. Detroit feels like they're just winning these games. They're just better than everyone else. It's crazy. So, but yeah,
And
good.
I guess I'll say, you know what? That was I did say that was last. The last thing I will say, that Monday night game, the Rams really blew that. That's
Yeah,
a game that they cannot afford to lose, and that was one of the worst I think I've ever seen the Rams offense look, and they were basically at full health.
yeah,
So
they look pretty poor.
those are my notes for Week 10.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll put a bow on that, and we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna roll right into Week 11. Quite a few good games this week, and we're gonna pick them and tell you how we think they're gonna go. Starting on Thursday Night Football, this is a good one. Good Thursday night matchup. Washington heading to Philadelphia. Philadelphia favored in this one. Who do you got in this NFC East matchup?
I like the Eagles because they're at home. I think Jalen Hurts is, I'm going to bet on the veteran at home in this one. Jaden Daniels, he's all hype. He's proven that or excuse me, I should say he's not all hype. He's proven he's not all hype. He's actually come in and, you know, pretty much, unless he has a terrible second half, he's pretty much locked up Rookie of the Year. But I can't bet against the Eagles and Saquon right now. They're looking actually pretty good after that rough start to the year. So I got the
Yeah.
Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to take Philly as well for a lot of the same reasons. Being at home, being one of the top ones, I think that place is going to be rocking. Moving over to Sunday football. Green Bay Packers going to take on those Chicago Bears in Chicago. Tough one for that Chicago offense.
Yeah, until I see what this new offensive coordinator is going to do with Caleb and the rest of that offense, I can't not pick the Packers. So I got the Packers on the road.
I got the Packers as well. Jacksonville heading to Detroit. This is probably the most lopsided matchup of the weekend.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. Lions are back home. I don't think they're gonna throw. I don't think Goff's gonna throw 5 interceptions. Jaguars are pretty mediocre, not to mention they won't have Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, Lions at home by a
Yeah,
good amount.
yeah, I'll leave the Lions as well. Minnesota heading to Tennessee also feels a little bit like a lopsided matchup.
Yeah, I like the Vikings. Road games are always a little more tricky. Darnold looks like he's seeing ghosts in the red zone again, like his time in New York with the Jets. But I think the Vikings are they they're just better. Justin Jefferson's way too good. Titans, I don't know what they are as a team, so I like the Vikings on the road.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on that one as well. Vegas heading to Miami. Miami having a pulse after Monday Night Football last night. Garner Minshew going to be starting for the Raiders.
I like the Dolphins. I think Tua's finally starting to round back into form a little bit. He didn't have a Tua like performance on Monday night, but he did just enough. And that Dolphins defense was hounding Matthew Stafford. So I think if that defense comes out again, especially at home, I mean they have an opportunity to turn their season around because that AFC East minus the Bills isn't great. So if they can crank out a couple wins, they could maybe put themselves back into the wild card slot. So I like the Dolphins at home.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins as well. This last weekend against the Rams was the first time we really saw the defense from the Miami Dolphins play well. They've really struggled all year. The offense, we always kind of had faith once Tua came back, it would tick and they would score 20, 30 a game. but the defense looked good, and the defense plays like that. They're a real contender to make the playoffs. It could happen, and you got to win these games against the bottom feeders like Vegas. So yeah, I got Miami as well. Talking about that Monday night game, the Rams head to the East Coast and take on New England. Who do you have?
I like the Rams. I think they just have more guys than the Patriots. Drake May is looking really good, and I think that it'll be this. I think this will be a close game, but there's no way we see what we saw out of Stafford again. He's not going to be happy with how he performed on Monday night, so he's going to want to come back and take out some of that frustration on the Patriots, I think.
Yeah, I think they bounce back and win that one as well. Kind of a stinker here, but who knows? You never know what happens out of these games. Cleveland heading to New Orleans. Jameis Winston, come back to New Orleans. How will we do?
I think he'll do okay. I don't think he's gonna, he's gonna sling the ball. We know he's gonna throw it a ton.
Yeah.
Unless they go up early and maybe maybe that's an opportunity for Chubb to actually get some carries and have a decent run game. But I don't think that'll be the case because I have the Saints winning. I think Kamara will just be too much for that Browns defense, and having Derek Carr back, as we saw last week, is just huge for that offense.
Yeah. They looked a lot better last week. I'm going to take the Saints as well. Cleveland is just, it's rough. Who knows how that game's going to come out. Indianapolis Colts heading to New York Jets. Anthony Richardson has been told he's going to be the starter the rest of the year. We'll see how that goes. That said, who do you got in this this one?
I'm taking the Jets at home. If Flacco was starting, I think I would have considered the Colts a little more. The Jets, they looked really bad against Arizona, and I know they had to travel across the country, but I don't know why. There's just something about Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they're big names, so I can't not think that maybe they'll get it all together once, and if there is an opportunity, maybe it's this week at home against the Colts. And Anthony Richardson hasn't proven me anything yet, so no way am I picking him. So I got the Jets at home.
Yeah, I got the Jets as well. I think this is going to be an offensive struggle across the board. I think it's whoever scores almost double digits in this one will win, but both those offenses have looked pretty bad most of the season. Good one here. This is going to be a dogfight. Baltimore heading into Pittsburgh. This could be game of the week right here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Steelers. I think their defense is legit. I think Baltimore's defense is not. And I don't know how many times Lamar can pull a rabbit out of his hat. He's done it a lot this year, it seems like. And he's having a ridiculous season. But I feel like a lot of people just see the Ravens and see Lamar and automatically think it's a win. But it's not like they're undefeated. They're not winning every game. So I like the Steelers defense at home. Wilson is looking a lot better, and now you got Pickens and Mike Williams. So another week of practice, and maybe Mike Williams will get unleashed a little more as like a true number 2.
So I actually have Baltimore, but hearing your arguments, they make all sense, and I kind of wish I could flip it over to Pittsburgh at this point, but I've already circled Baltimore, so I'm going to stick with that. I think this is a toss-up game. I think it can honestly go either way, but that Baltimore defense is not good, and it probably is going to cost them the season. It's just that bad. Pittsburgh's been great, and they got a lot of guys, and their defense has been really good, so it's going to be interesting to see how that defense goes up against Lamar. They've seen him a lot, obviously being in the same division. It will be interesting. But I think we're looking. I mean, it's easy to say now, but winner of this game could very well end up winning division. I could see that happening. Two teams coming off of, I would say, disappointing losses last week, going into the afternoon slate. Atlanta heading into Denver.
I don't know why. I just cannot buy into the Broncos yet. I don't know if it's because Bo Nix is a rookie. I know he's playing really well, and the Broncos' defense is pretty good. I just like the Falcons as a bounce back team. They lost last week, right?
To New Orleans.
That's right. I think they bounce back. I think it's kind of the same thing I said about Matthew Stafford. Kirk Cousins didn't have that great of a game, and I think the best player on the field is Bijan Robinson. And you know, if Atlanta's smart, just feed him, whether
Yeah.
he's catching it or rushing it. Just give him the ball. So I like the
Yeah.
Falcons on the road.
Yeah, the only reason I have Denver here is it's going into Denver. I feel like they're going to be pretty motivated off of that Kansas City game last week. Just they were one field goal away from winning it. They've got a formula. They've got something going on that's pretty good. I also think that Atlanta offense is going to struggle against this Denver defense, which is proving to be very good. So I'm going to take Denver. I just have something I like about this Denver team going forward. Their offense can go into struggle territory at times, though. Only thing I don't like. Seattle heading into San Francisco.
Niners. I don't think this is too difficult. I know these games are typically pretty tight. Another divisional game. Divisional games are always a little more scrappy. But McCaffrey's back and presumably healthy. Debo's healthy. Kittle's healthy.
Yep.
So we might be seeing the 49ers that we thought we were going to see early on in the year. I know Ayuk's out for the year, but I think they can maintain without him, especially with guys like Johnson and Ricky Pearsall looked pretty damn good. So I like the Niners.
I got the Niners as well. Game of the week: Kansas City heading into Buffalo. This could be one of the last teams that could actually dethrone Kansas City.
So there was that one week I bet against the Chiefs, and obviously that was dumb because they're undefeated. And I always make the comment, don't bet against Mahomes. Screw it, I'm going Bills. I think the Chiefs are the worst undefeated team, and this is not a Chiefs team that can go undefeated. It just does not feel like one of those teams that can go undefeated. So this is a prime opportunity at home for the Bills. Josh Allen, go get it done. I got the Bills at home.
Yeah, I actually have the Bills as well. I just feel like this is going to be the game that Kansas City loses. It just there's been too much luck that's fallen on Kansas City's side. I actually kind of have a feeling this is not going to be necessarily close. I think Buffalo comes in with a lot of fire, knowing they have to win this game. This is a big one. Puts separation in their own division, but also sends a message out to the rest of the league of, yeah, we're still here, because they've just been beating up on bad teams, and the good teams that they have played, they haven't played well in those games. So this is a big one for them, and I think they're going to treat it like a almost like a must win, because they need to send a message, especially at home. Going to the primetime games this week, this might be the worst Sunday-Monday combination we have all year. Starting with Sunday Night Football, Cincinnati playing the Chargers.
I like the Bengals here, and I'm basically just banking on their offense coming out hot again. I mean, it'd be naive to say that Chase is going to do what he does again. But Higgins, I think, is trending towards playing, and that's a huge boost as well. I really like this Chargers team, but again, they kind of fall into that Broncos. They fall into the same kind of categories of Broncos for me. I just can't quite figure them out. They're not like dominant, but they're getting by with their defense, and Herbert's doing just enough. He's having a pretty good year. Dobbins has been a crazy signing, great resurgence, but I don't know. The Bengals just still have they just still have those guys. So I'm just going to take the Bengals on the road.
I'm going to take the Chargers, kind of for a lot of the reasons you said. Defense, it wins games. This hardball method is working. They're controlling the Justin Herbert and the run game and everything like that. I'll take the Chargers until I know otherwise. I just feel good about that team. Monday Night Football. This is kind of a stinker. Houston heading into Dallas. I think we're both taking Houston on this one.
Yeah, if everyone was healthy, this would be kind of a fun game. The Battle of Texas, and on paper, prior to the year, obviously, I'm sure Monday Night Football was looking forward to this, but fortunately, it doesn't go that way. So Yeah, I'm taking the Texans. Nico Collins is looking like he'll be back, which obviously is a huge help. And Cooper Rush looked absolutely horrible.
Yep.
So Cowboys have nothing going for them right now. So Texans by a lot, even though they're on
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be close. I think Dallas is going to be basically the worst team in the league pretty much going forward. Giants, Cardinals, Tampa Bay, Carolina, all on buys. And that is your wraparound week 11. Let's jump into college football. There's quite a bit that's happened here in the last week and going into next week. James, I know you have some headlines that you want to talk about, and we'll address the college football playoff right after that. But for right now, what were your headlines from that was week 11 of the college football season? Yes, it was.
Yep. Yeah, so right off the bat, I'll go with that Georgia Tech upset of Miami. Pretty big win for Georgia Tech. Long time coming for Miami. I don't think they're a weird team. Like some weeks, Cam Ward is legit. He's really good. Their defense is not that great. I think an undefeated season for them was a possibility, but I wouldn't have said it's a lock. And obviously, Georgia Tech got that win. Miami's still going to be fine though overall, just because they're in the ACC. I think so. Not the worst upset loss for them. But that could be a fun ACC matchup if we get Miami. SMU is looking pretty solid.
Yep.
Quinn Ewers finally had that breakout performance. Texas is another one. They haven't had many great wins. They're kind of beating up the bad SEC teams.
Best win is Vandy.
But Quinn Ewers, what's that?
Best win is Vandy.
Yeah, like they're 8-1 or whatever they are, 9-1. They have one loss, but their wins aren't great.
No.
But Quinn Ewers finally, I thought, looked really good. So I guess we'll see what Texas is. Another upset, we saw Ole Miss take down Georgia. Jackson Dart outdueled Carson Beck, not in a big time QB showdown. I mean, a big time QB showdown. I wouldn't say the stats were fantastic, but Carson Beck is just absolutely tanking his stock for the NFL. I mean, he's looking like a guy who he was getting heralded as that potential first quarterback taking off the board. He could drop down in like the fourth or fifth round now at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's not. He's going to be a third day guy now. I mean, I think it's last 6 games, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. It's real bad.
Yeah, he's not looking great, and I think Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey covered up a lot of his weaknesses. Yeah. Indiana gets to 10 wins for the first time in school history. So, Mom, Dr. Ann Garrett, congratulations. 9 wins total in their last 3 years. So, I don't know what the hell got into Indiana this year, but I have never in my lifetime known Indiana to have more than like 4 or 5 wins in a football season. And I didn't even think of Indiana. Like, they're just a nothing program. Michael Penix kind of helped him out, and then he transferred to Washington. But, yeah, I mean, good for Indiana. Yeah. They have a bye this week, and I think they take on Ohio State the week after. So that'll be their first real test. I guess I'll give that that win against Michigan's solid. But Michigan's not the Michigan of last year, or even just the Michigan that normally we get to see every year. So hats off to Indiana. Hats off to Army as well. They have the nation's longest winning streak at 13. They're also one of those few undefeated teams, and an interesting team to see what happens as the year goes on. If they somehow can beat Notre Dame and continue an undefeated season, I'd be curious to see what happens with them compared to like a Boise State with a 1 loss. Because, I mean, if they can beat Notre Dame, that'd be a hell of a win for them. So yeah. They're a team to keep an eye on. Another thing that I was very wrong about earlier in the year, and I was very adamant about not talking about Colorado, well, I was wrong. Sorry, Dion. Colorado is actually pretty good. Travis Hunter's a freak. They control their own destiny, and it's looking like they're probably gonna win out and go to the Big 12 playoff or Big 12 championship game. So good for them. At least the media's kind of toned it down a little bit,
Yeah.
where we're not getting shoved Colorado down our throats like we were last year. This one I put down here. It's really not that important, but Notre Dame prisoned FSU like 52-3 or 53 to something, 50 plus to 3. And for a team in FSU that was pissed off for not going to the playoff last year, yeah, there's a lot of work to do in Tallahassee for Mike Norvell. We saw Bama exert some dominance on LSU. That I was very surprised about, actually. I did not think Bama was just going to go into the swamp, or not the swamp, into Baton Rouge and just destroy LSU. But Milroe, I think he kind of had his, Heisman performance, and he did it all with his legs with 4 rushing touchdowns. So anything on that game, Sean? Anything stand out for you?
Yeah,
from the LSU Alabama game?
we can pretty much scratch LSU out of the playoff picture at this point. You can't lose that bad at home. Alabama looked really good. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. Bama's going. I mean, it's going to be hard to keep Bama out of the playoffs at this point, in my opinion. When they cook, they cook. And the SEC is it's a different animal. It's a gauntlet right now. You got 6 teams. I'd say 6 teams that are pretty playoff worthy, and it's going to be interesting to see how many of those 6 teams get in.
One thing I did find fun watching is BYU. Boise State was on Fox, and I was like, you know what? I've only really seen highlights of Ashton Jeanty. Let's see what this guy's all about. And he's a monster.
Yep.
He's a 5'9" monster, and he's going to be the number 1 running back taken in the draft. But the guy is incredible. He can't be stopped. And, Boise State's kind of fun. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs, if anything, because it's going to be feed Jeanty and see if the defense can stop him. BYU squeaked it out in the Holy War. They're a team that's so odd to me. Like you can't say they're not good, but I don't want to say they're like the Chiefs, but they're getting a lot of things going their way, it seems, this year. They're kind of having a season of destiny.
Yeah.
But typically obviously that BYU-Utah is a pretty big rivalry, so I actually think did I have Utah winning last week? No, I guess I picked BYU.
BYU.
Anyways,
yeah,
that was a fun game. That was a nail-biter. Came right down to the end. And then the last point I have is a question. I'm going to ask you a question, Sean. Wazoo has 1 loss, and that's to Boise State. And it really looks like they're going to win out. And if that's the case, and I know they're technically not really in they're kind of the Pac-12, but also the Mountain. Like they're not a Power 5 conference. They used to be a Power 5 school just last year. If they went out, do we consider them at all, or what do we do with Wazoo?
So the only way they're going to get in is if they finish in the top 11. That's the only way they're going to get in. So they have to be in the college playoff in the top 11. How it's shaping up and how everything is going and everything like that, I don't think they have a path of getting in. And that's purely the fact that you have 4, and we're going to kind of bridge this into the college football talk, I guess. You have 4 Big Ten teams. You can pretty much solidify at this point 3 of those are definitely getting in. You have a bunch of SEC teams in the loop. I mean, you have I think there's 9 in the top 25, but what's cut out a few of those up top, they're not getting in. So you got really 6 that you can circle right now. There's a world that seems nuts where 6 could get in. I think it's going to be 5. So you got SEC is going to take 5 spots probably. Big Ten probably takes 3, if not 4. Notre Dame, and then ACC and the Big 12, and then the minor conference, you're already one over. So that's already 13 right there, 12 to 13. There's no room for Washington State. They're not going to get in. It's purely the fact that they have such a bad strength of schedule. There's already the conversation is going to be more along the lines of, and it's going to be crazy because we have this game in a couple weeks. What happens when, and I'm just saying, if this happens, if Ohio State beats Indiana by 30, just kills them, what's going to happen to an 11-1 Indiana team? That's going to be the question.
Yeah,
Compared
that's a
to
good point.
that's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially where you got all these SEC teams sitting with 2 losses and potentially like a Georgia with like maybe 3. But Georgia's right now got the strength of schedule. What they're the third hardest strength of schedule in college football. Indiana, I think, is 88th. Washington State, I haven't even looked at, but it's probably in the hundreds. Um, I don't think Washington State has a path at all.
Yeah, they probably would have had to go undefeated. I mean, if they beat
Yeah,
Boise State, obviously that would look like a really good win. And obviously, an undefeated team, you could maybe sway the committee to put you in, but they just haven't played anyone.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I'll say that college football playoff. I just want to say one thing really quick. It's the second week that it's come out, and a lot of people are blowing smoke and everything and saying this is all wrong and everything. I'm just gonna say, everyone relax. A lot of things gonna get played out in the next 3 weeks. That's all I gotta say. Just relax.
Yeah, it's just projections. The one that you can freak out about is when it actually matters.
Yeah, when it actually happens,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, the only thing I would say about it, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I know you have to give the 3 seed to BYU because they're
yeah,
theoretically, the Big 12 champion since they're the only undefeated team. I don't think that continues,
yeah.
but as of right this second, yeah. I mean, I think that. I mean,
All
nothing
right
really
now,
jumps out to me as like, yeah. Penn
it,
State is a little odd. They also haven't beaten anyone, and I mean, they're kind of like Indiana. Indiana, the one thing I will say about Indiana is that they're at least blowing their opponents out.
yeah,
Penn State isn't. They're a weird team.
yeah. They're weird, and
But yeah, no, I mean,
they're gonna win out. I mean, it's we'll see how everything kind of falls. But that said, we got a couple matchups we'll jump into. Not as many on this slate. I think these next few weeks are going to see a bunch, but this week is a little bit slow on the college football front. Um, Only 2 top 25 matchups this week, which is crazy compared to a few weeks ago. We had a bunch. 23 Missouri heading to South Carolina, number 21. These are 2 teams that find themselves in that 7-9 range in the SEC. You have to win this to stay alive. Loser is definitely done.
Missouri has not looked good recently, in my opinion. And we've talked about traveling to South Carolina. It's not a night game in South Carolina, but I don't know. Missouri doesn't do it for me. South Carolina also doesn't necessarily do it for me, but I think they get the win at home, so I'm picking South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to take South Carolina as well. They've got a pretty good resume all of a sudden. Picking if they win this one, I think it would be their third ranked win this season. Pretty cool. Um,
Hmm.
Definitely an elimination game in the Big 12. ASU going into Kansas State, they're ranked 16.
Yeah, ASU, I think they're definitely having a really good season, and hats off to Kenny Dillingham. He's really turned that program around really fast. Um, but they're not going into K State and winning. That's not happening. So Kansas State's going to win at home. I have Kansas State.
Yep, I feel the same feeling. I'm going to take Kansas State. Game of the week, number 7 Tennessee going to Georgia, number 12. This is a tough one. I mean, this is a great game, and it's amazing to say this could be an elimination game. If Georgia loses this, I don't know what their road is to the playoff. I think Tennessee may have a little wiggle room to lose this one, but I think this is Georgia has to win this game.
Yeah, this is a big game for Georgia. I called the Ole Miss game last week. I got lucky. I picked Ole Miss at home. I think the home crowd is definitely going to help Georgia, but their defense has not looked good. They had zero pressure on Jackson Dart last week, and we talked about um, Carson Beck just not being. He hasn't been good for a couple weeks now, and I don't think that continues because Tennessee is a pretty solid defense. So I guess technically it's not an upset since Tennessee's the higher seed, but I'm taking Tennessee on the road at Georgia.
I'm gonna take Georgia. I think Georgia comes out with fire. They know they have to win this one. I just looked at the line because I was curious. Georgia's favored by 10. It's a lot of points.
Wow.
Yeah. What is
Is there an
Vegas?
injury we don't know about or something?
I don't know. What does Vegas know that we don't? But right now, that line is 10, which is a lot of points. Um, I'll take I'll take Georgia, but I'll take the points from Tennessee. I think it's gonna be closer than 10 for sure. Um, Wild. One more game we're gonna address really quick. Kansas heading to BYU after the Holy War of last week. They continue their luck to go their way.
So I'm taking Kansas on the road. I watched the Kansas game with Ashley last week, and they dominated Iowa State. And Iowa State's they're a good team. Kansas is weird. They have not had a good year, but I swear they've been in every single game every week. They're not like getting dominated and blown out. Jalen Daniels looked a lot better. Their run game with Devin Neal was good. Jalen Daniels actually hasn't even really been using his legs at all. He came in as like a heralded, dual threat guy, but he's actually slinging it around pretty good. And if Kansas can play like they did this past week against Iowa State, I don't think BYU. I don't want to say I don't think BYU has a chance, but to me, BYU doesn't have the same pedigree as an Iowa State. So I'm taking Kansas. I'm taking Kansas as the upset, and I think BYU's dreams kind of start going out the door, and it's really going to start opening up an opportunity for Colorado to just take a stranglehold on this Big 12.
I think BYU is going to win. I just think that they're having a special season, and I'm just gonna roll with that one for now. So that said, that's all we got for this week. Is there anything you want to add, James?
Not really. Arizona plays Houston this week on Friday, and if Arizona loses to Houston, there's rumors that Brent Brennan might get fired. So,
Jeez.
not good stuff in Tucson right now. So thank God it's basketball season.
All right. Well, that said, I don't have too much more to add. Guys, have a wonderful week watching college football, NFL. Hope your fantasy teams are going well. We'll see you guys next week. Later.